So good afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time it is there, and welcome to the Jenni Rock coaching webinar on how to communicate with your ex. And normally the communication problems come about because you both have an expectation of the other which isn't being met. And the problem is, especially when they're an abusive ex, whatever you do, you're not going to win. And I think the first thing you have to realize is that whatever you do is going to be wrong, in their opinion. But you're not going to be married anymore, so their opinion doesn't matter. So the first thing to think about is, I don't have to please this person anymore. I don't have to toe the line, and I don't have to say things to placate them. That being said, however, you obviously don't want to antagonize an already difficult situation, because antagonizing the situation does not help you communicate with regards to your children. Because apart from the divorce, the only other reason that you need to communicate is regarding the children. So if you don't have any children and you have an ex that is still communicating with you and you're not happy about that, then you can stop that. So let's deal with that first off. The way that you can stop that is you block them. You block them on your phone. You block them on all social media. If possible, you get rid of your phone number and you get a new phone number, and then they cannot ring you because they don't have your new phone number. But block them anyway, just to be safe. You block them on every social media platform that you have. You have to have a very zero tolerance attitude towards communication. And if somebody is harassing you, then you have to report it. This is where boundaries come in. And we will talk about boundaries on a different session, but boundaries are really, really important. They are there to protect you. So you have agreements in terms of communication and to, when things are amicable. And when they're not, you have boundaries. And the boundaries are there to ensure that you do not get taken advantage of. You do not suffer any injustice. You do not suffer any pain or inconvenience. The boundaries are there for your well-being. And you're the one that gets to decide them because they're your boundaries. So you're the only one that can choose your boundaries. Now, for example, I had to go block on the phone. I had to set up a separate email account so that the emails that came from them went straight to a separate account. And that was only in relation to the child. That was, I had no communication apart from with the child was acceptable. So if it was something to do with the schooling, medical, visitation, anything like that, communication was by email unless it was an emergency situation. And when I say emergency situation, I'm talking life or death. I'm talking admittance to hospital kind of emergency situation, or the car's broken down and I'm not going to get them back to you at the right time. I'm on my way. I'm waiting for the breakdown truck. That kind of communication we can class as acceptable. What we can't class as acceptable is they didn't hand in their homework last week. That's all your fault. Yeah, it was your responsibility. Why didn't you do that? Blah, 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 blah. You didn't, the child said that you haven't given them a bath for the last 3 weeks. Yeah, that is not an acceptable communication, because you know very well that the child has been given a bath every single day, virtually for their entire lives. So those kind of communications are not acceptable. And you have to realize that your child is in a very difficult situation because they are trying to please both parents. And when they're trying to please both parents, they will say what they believe the other parent wants to hear. And if that means that they have to say something bad about you to the other parent in order to make the other parent happy while they are there with the other parent, then that's what they will do. And that is not their fault. They are doing that out of a survival instinct. So they are doing that to ensure their survival. So it is a very It comes right back to, strips it right back to basics. Survival is key for them. So the children will quite often tell the other parent things that aren't true. Yeah. And you know that's going to happen. So when you know that's going to happen, you already understand what's driving that behavior. So when you are dealing with a normal person, you can have that conversation with them. But when you are not dealing with a normal person, when you are dealing with somebody who has toxic tendencies, shall we say, because we can label these people all we like. We can put whatever name, whatever label we want to put on them, we can put on them. But it doesn't matter. It makes no difference. The label is just a label. It's just a name. You know, it's just the same as calling them Fred or Bob or Steve, you know, when their name is Bill. A label means nothing. What matters is the behaviour. So the child is caught in the middle. The child is going to do whatever it takes to keep whatever parent happy that they're with at the time. In normal circumstances, you can, that doesn't happen so much, but you can already discuss that with the other parent in terms of, I don't know why they're saying that, but I know very well that that's not the case, and the other parent accepts that as truth. When they're a toxic parent, they will use whatever they get given by that child as a weapon to use against you. So they will then start to send a barrage of abuse towards you about how much of a bad parent you are, how they're going to sue for full custody, how they're going to take the child away from you because you're such a terrible mother. You know, you're neglectful. They're going to report you to social services or CPS or whoever they want to report you to, Child Protective Services. I mean, they'll have different names in different places, but you get the gist of what they're threatening to do. And 9 times out of 10, the threat is exactly that. It's just a threat. They're not going to do anything, because to do anything would mean actually going out of their way. And these people are not the people that will expend energy on anything that doesn't necessarily serve them. So they won't be bothered. They're just saying it out of a means to threaten you and a means to make you feel insecure about your rights with the child. So the boundaries have to be very hard and fast. And when I'm talking about boundaries, we're talking about consequences. So when you have a person that is texting you, emailing you, turning up on your doorstep, leaving notes, phoning you at work, any or all of the above, one of the above, all of the above, any means of communicating with you that is an unwanted communication, the minute that you start getting into, sort of more than twice, you start getting into the realms of harassment. And obviously in different places there are slightly different sort of tweaks to the law, but the general basis is the same, in that harassment is illegal. You're not allowed to harass another person. And with that comes consequences. So if somebody is harassing you, you report them to the police. Because even if the police don't do anything, they will have that report on file. And then the next time that you phone them or report them, there'll be the one from before that they can refer back to. So it's really important that you create an evidence trail so that in the event that it does go to court, there is evidence there all the way through of what has been happening. And that is there to protect you, because God forbid if anything were to happen. So God forbid that the ex did something really crazy, got off their face with alcohol, turned up, shot you, for example. Hope to God it never happens. Unfortunately, it happens far too often. But there needs to be, what about the last 3 years where they've been harassing you? Because if you've not told anybody, nobody can look out for your safety. So if you've not told anybody, if you allow them to do whatever it is that they're doing in terms of their behaviour, in their style of communication, if you don't do anything, they will keep going, and they will do it more and more and more, and they will escalate because they know they're getting away with it. Because the key is, when they think they're getting away with something, they'll keep doing it. They'll keep pushing that line and keep pushing that envelope and keep trying all the harder to make you bend, make you buckle. Their goal is to win. at all costs. They don't care. They don't care about whether it makes you ill. They don't care. To be honest, they hope it makes you ill, because if it makes you ill, then they get the child to look after, and then they've won. But their sole goal is to win. That's it. That is their prime goal. Now, there are a few different strategies that you can use, and obviously boundaries is one of them. And my recommendation is that you report every time they're harassing you, until the police have no option but to take you seriously and to deal with it. Because unless you do, nothing will happen. So you have to become an annoying fly in their ear that they have to want to work at solving, getting rid of, so that they can have a peaceful life again. You need to keep a record. So whether you keep a record on your phone of all the attempted calls, whether you have a record of all of the texts that they've sent and you print them out, because on a lot of phones you can actually block them so you don't see them. However, you can still pull them back up and you can print them off. So there's an app you can put on your phone that will actually allow you to take those texts, copy them onto a printable document and print those off. I don't have the name of it, I'm sorry, but you'll find it. Just, text to evidence or text to word app, and there'll be one there. Now, so boundaries are there to protect you, and I strongly advise that you use them, because it's so important. We hear so many times people got hurt, people got killed. There was a domestic abuse incident. Oh, they thought it was all okay. Nobody said anything. And in reality, there was an awful lot of stuff going on behind closed doors that nobody saw. So unless you report it, nobody can do anything about it. But you might not feel ready for that. So if you don't feel ready for that, then you record it. So what you do is you collect that evidence yourself. And you don't collect that evidence. If you're still, unfortunately, in that relationship, you don't collect that evidence somewhere where other people might actually be able to find it. You put it somewhere like in the cloud, for example. So you can open a Gmail account, a Google account, and they give you free cloud storage. So you can keep a note on a written document in the cloud of what's been happening, what date, when. You can give the password and the login details to your mum or to your sister or to somebody safe that if anything happens to you, they have access to. My safety net, if you like, was my work colleagues. And I said, if anything ever happens to me, then I'm telling you now, the person that will have done it is this, and this is why. They knew the severity of the situation, and they were my backup if anything were to happen to me. And they were also witness to some of the things that happened. So if I needed a witness to the phone calls that literally I was kind of holding the phone out here because it was so loud. He was literally screaming down the phone at me, that if I didn't pick up the phone, if I didn't talk to him, if I didn't deal with him, then he would be turning up in the next 10 minutes at my workplace, at my home, at wherever I was, at my parents' house, wherever I happened to be. He forced me to communicate with him by means of threat. And the threat was of some kind of action, whatever that action may be, whether it be causing trouble for me at work, whether it be turning up on my doorstep and battering the front door down until he got into the house, whether it be coming around to my family's home and basically causing chaos at my family's home. I didn't want that for them. I didn't want that for work. I didn't want it for me. So in reality, I was held hostage for years by this threat of answer the phone or I'm going to do this. And I was so scared of what might happen that I would answer the phone on the next ring because I was terrified. And it was kind of a blackmail situation that he constantly, for years, forced me to communicate with him by means of threat. And it was only afterwards that I found out about boundaries. Why did nobody tell me about boundaries? I didn't know. Nobody knew. I just did not have a clue about boundaries. I had no clue about what to say, how to set them, what to do. I just didn't know. And I was too scared. Just too scared to do anything about it. And I think it's really important that the women that are following in our footsteps learn the lessons from us, the ones that have been through it, because that way they don't get to suffer as long as we did. Because we suffered for a long time. And we suffered because we didn't know. Because I don't know about anybody else, but I came from a broken home. My mum remarried when I was young, and our dad adopted us. As you know, he's our dad. There's no big secret. That's what happened, and I didn't know about boundaries. I didn't know how to deal with this. I think it was very much a case of the women sort of like shut up and put up and just took all the crap, and were too scared to do anything about it because they were told, oh well, you have to make the marriage work. And that's not okay. That's really not okay, because that wasn't true. We didn't have to put up with it. And I think because that's what our parents had gone through in a lot of cases, that was the way our minds worked, were we learnt from our elders, we learnt from our families what to do. And even now, I'm still, out of 4 daughters, I'm still the only one that is divorced. So everybody else is married. I am the only one that is divorced. Therefore, I am the black sheep. But I don't really care anymore. I used to care. It used to really, really get to me. And I just don't care anymore. I'm just like, whatever. Put whatever your name on it you want. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, I'm happy. I'm happier now than I ever was married. Because I learnt the art of communication with my ex, which was 1, boundaries, and 2, grey rock. So grey rock, don't know whether you've heard of it before or not, but basically you become as interesting as a grey rock. So when they're kind of like, you kind of go, oh really? Oh, okay. Yeah. You do not respond in engaging in a conversation. So you literally, you might kind of like go, yeah. You might kind of, put a sympathy face, kind of go, but you don't engage in conversation about it. So what happens is they turn up at your doorstep, they hand the child back, and then they start giving you a lecture about whatever. You've got 2 choices at that point. You can either react or not react. If you react, whatever you put out, you are going to get back tenfold. But if you don't react, they've got nowhere to go. It literally just shuts them down. They just don't know what to do because they're not getting the reaction that they expected. So becoming a lump of grey rock is key to actually winning in that communication battle, because you're not fighting back. And that does not mean that they've won at all. Because you can't have a fight if there's only one person involved. So if one person is trying to have a fight and the other person is not reacting at all, in any way, shape or form, then no fight can actually happen. So it's really, really important to remember that this applies to everything that they're doing. So if they are being a normal, calm, rational human being and communicating with you, adult to adult, engage in conversation, that's fine. If they are becoming irrational, if they are starting to turn into a 2-year-old having a tantrum, if they start throwing names and cursing at you or behaving in a way that is unacceptable, then you grey rock. And that shuts them down. In 99% of cases. Because there will always be one. There will always be one person that decides, I'm not getting what I want. I'm going to level it up to the next level. I'll start grabbing. Okay, and when they start grabbing, they're laying hands on you. They're laying hands on you, they're your ex. That is no different than being assaulted by a person in the street. You phone the police, you report it, you get the justice done. And I know from experience that you'll sit there and go, oh, but I don't want to get them into trouble. I don't want them to be arrested. That'll ruin. Then they'll lose their job, and then they won't be able to afford child support. And you just start catastrophizing in your head what's going to happen. But that's not your job. Your job is to be a protector for your children and to help nurture and raise them to be functional, contributing members of society. And you can't do that if you are allowing yourself to be manhandled in front of them, and by not doing anything about it, you're telling them that that's okay. So you are perpetuating the cycle of the abuse, because they will grow up and their relationships will model what they have seen when they grow up. So by allowing it to continue, you're just continuing the cycle. So it's really, really important that you either boundaries or grey rock. And the minute anybody does something to you, that if a stranger did it to you, you would be screaming from the rooftops. The minute anybody does that to you, you apply immediate hard consequences to that situation, because it's not your job to punish them. You did not cause this problem. If they harass you and they stalk you, because stalking is another one, I had that. Doesn't our son look cute in his little red swimming shorts, playing in the pool? And I'm thinking, he's playing in the pool in my back garden. I've got a 7-foot fence all the way around. You can't see through it. The only way he can see that is by looking over the fence. And he would have had to have done some kind of, pretty good ninja maneuvering to get up there, climbing trees, whatever. But that really, really freaked me out, because then even my home wasn't safe, and you just get this fear and this dread and this, oh my God, and what do I do? And you just kind of close in, because you don't know what to do, because nobody's ever taught us what to do. So if I had my time again, I would apply harder boundaries. I would apply harder consequences much quicker, which would have actually resolved the situation, because the minute I started applying boundaries, consequences, and grey rock, it all stopped. It all stopped. And I wish I'd known. So my reason for doing this webinar today is for all of those women that are going through this journey, that are, a few steps behind where I am right now, or a few years behind where I am, whatever stage you are. If you're not out and no contact and happy, and that's the past and moving on, then it's really important that you are aware of what you can do in these types of situations. And it's only when you start applying them that the situation will change, because whilst you allow them to talk to you that way, you are A, teaching your children that it is okay to be spoken to in that way. You are B, giving your abuser permission to continue abusing you and possibly escalate, because they know how much you'll take. And C, you deserve far better. You deserve so much more, and there is no reason on earth why anybody has the right to make you unhappy, to make you miserable, to steal your joy. There is just there's no reason on earth that anybody has that right. And if the person that is doing that to you is the person that once upon a time supposedly loved you so much that they couldn't live without you, and you were the only thing that made their life worth living, and now they treat you like this, their actions don't really actually match up with their words, do they? And when their actions don't match up with their words, you have a choice of, do I believe the actions or do I believe the words? And my theory, whether that be right or wrong, is I believe the actions. Because to me, the actions are what matter. I could say for a month of Sundays, I'm going to give everybody I know £1 million. But unless I actually do it, it's not real. So I can say anything I like, but unless I actually do it, it's not real. So I firmly believe that actions speak far louder than words. So when you're communicating with your ex, I'm just going to keep going through this again and again and again to make sure that you've got it, guys, is boundaries. Yeah, you have the right to say, no, you cannot talk to me that way. You have the right to expect to be communicated with in a respectful, adult manner. And if somebody chooses not to behave in that way, then you are absolutely within every right that you have, with every hair on your head, you are absolutely entitled to apply consequences. Now, if you apply consequences, which could mean phoning the police and reporting them, you have not caused that situation. Even though, they'll be telling everybody that you have, but, you know the truth. That's all that matters. What everybody else thinks doesn't matter. It's what you think that matters. You know the truth. You did not create that situation out of thin air. They are the one that have done this. So just the same as if they had, mugged an old woman on the street or ram-raided a bank, they have to face the consequences of their behaviours. What they're doing is not behaving in a way that society considers to be acceptable. And the only way that they're going to stop is when boundaries are going to be enforced. All right? Because if you don't apply boundaries, you're giving them permission to continue. Grey rock. You do not engage. They have nowhere to go. You can't have a fight with one person. If the other person is not responding, you can't do it. If you go down to the beach and you find a lump of grey rock and you kick it, yeah, what happens? Nothing. Right, you get a sore foot. It's kind of like, rough justice. But you do not give them any kind of input, information, insight that they can use against you, because whatever you say, even if you were right 1,000,000%, you would be wrong in their opinion, and they would apply consequences to you. Therefore, you don't engage. You just do not engage. And when it comes to the children, if you are sharing custody and the children have to go backwards and forwards, it's really important that you behave with grace and dignity so that that child knows how to behave if that situation arises for them in the future. So it's important that you don't resort to screaming, running after the car, going down the road, screaming obscenities at it like a fishwife. That's not really appropriate. You can avoid contact wherever possible. If the children are old enough to walk, they're old enough to walk up a pathway from the curb to the house, under the eyes of both parents. But you don't have to go up that pathway. You don't have to stand on that front porch to hand the children over. And that works both ways. So you can insist upon zero contact unless it's absolutely essential for the child's well-being, health, emergency. If there is some issue with the child visitation, then that's okay. Basically, if it's around the child and it's a reasonable, acceptable reason for contacting you, that's fine. But if they're phoning to complain that you didn't put Cheerios in their lunchbox or something, because that's their favourite cereal in the whole wide world, and you should have known that, and you're gonna ruin their day completely because of that, that's not an acceptable reason to contact you. That's just called get a grip. That's just inconsequential information that has no need to be reported. You keep an evidence log, you keep it all written down. Anything that is said or done, anything that is sent, emails, text messages, whatever, keep a log, keep a record, keep that in the cloud, give a safe person the login information so that they can access that if needed. And you keep reporting it to the police. because as long as you don't report it to the police, they'll continue doing it. And let me tell you, it took me 11 years. 11 years of hell trying to co-parent with a narcissist that you cannot co-parent with. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that you can't co-parent with a narcissist. I kept trying, and I kept getting beaten down because of it, you know? Not necessarily physically after he'd left, but by threats, by manipulation, by guilt, by all sorts. Oh, you know, the threats, oh, I'll take him away from you, you'll never see him again. To, you know, I'm going to apply for sole custody because you're not a fit mother. Even though they were the one with the alcohol problem and the drugs problem, and I was clean as a whistle, you know, but apparently I was a bad mother because I was working, because I needed to work to put food on the table and a roof over our heads. So what else was I supposed to do? So it's kind of, you know, you can't win with these people. You cannot win. So really important that you are aware of that, that you understand that you can't win whatever you do. So you can either try and wait it out and spend years waiting, because it will not stop. It doesn't stop when they hit 18. They just keep on going for as long as they are alive. And, you know, I have frequently joked about, you know, sort of that karma bus. I'm still waiting for them to really kick it in. You know, it's a shame we don't have bog off deals on sorting out the problems. Buy one, get one free. But unfortunately, that's not acceptable, so we can't do that. So you have to insist on these boundaries. You have to insist on limiting the communication to the absolute minimum. I've seen both sides of it. I've seen communication that actually works really well, and I've seen communication that works really badly. And I was one of those people where communication was really not a great situation and was not working out very well for me at all. The other person was fine because they were getting what they wanted all the time, but I wasn't. And I was being held hostage to the other person's demands and I won't say requests, they weren't. They were demands and insistences that things were done their way, things were done that way. They wanted this, they wanted that, they wanted the other. And basically I had to agree to it all, because otherwise if I didn't, they'd make my life hell. Well, you know, do you want to live the rest of your life like that? Because it doesn't end when they're 18. You don't want to live your life in fear of what's going to happen, of what they're going to do next, where are they going to turn up, what trouble are they going to cause. You don't deserve to live that life. You deserve to live a much, much better life. So, guys, I'm going to stop wittering on now, because I get a bit passionate about it, I'm afraid, because I care. It's something that I feel that everybody should know. But are there any questions in the room? So, oh, we have a question.
Okay, so my concern is having children, having an ex, and having that ex, you know, you talk about the child in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? Wanting to please both parents. However, that child gets a report back from my ex that I reported them to the police. So then it puts me as the bad mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how to handle that situation with the child. Yeah. Okay. First and foremost is that the child is not your confidant. So the child is not your best friend. That is not a discussion that you would necessarily have with that child. I would certainly advocate having that conversation with the police without the child present. There's no need for them to know, because that puts them in the middle, and that puts you, as you say, it puts you in the role of the bad guy, because whatever you do, the other parent is going to cast you in the role of the bad guy anyway. And it's a case of the conversation that you have with the child. So the conversation that needs to be had with the child when it comes up in conversation. Oh, you know, Daddy said that you you're a bad person because you reported him to the police, blah, blah. The conversation there is, right, okay, if you had a friend that was being hurt, is that right or is that wrong? And if it's wrong, what would you do? You would tell a teacher, or you would tell a safe person or a parent. Well, we don't have a teacher to talk to. We have the police. That's our teacher. So you handle it in a very child-appropriate manner because somebody is doing something bad to you that they're not supposed to be doing. And it's not okay to allow that to continue. So you're doing something about it. So they're getting a lesson both ways here that A, if something happens at school, then you deal with it. If something happens when they're grown up in life, then you deal with it. You don't just sit back and take it. Does that answer your question? Yeah? Cool. Fabulous. Any other questions? Okay, doesn't look like we have any other questions. What I would suggest is if you have any particular problems, concerns, questions, please feel free to contact me either by direct messaging through Facebook. You can contact me through my website, which is www.jennyrockcoaching.com. You can find me on Facebook under Jenny Rock. You can find me on Facebook under Jenny Rock Coaching. There's a variety of ways to contact me, or you can email me on jennyrock1@outlook.com. Okay, so lots of ways to contact me there. And I'm more than happy if you've got an individual situation that you just kind of need a little bit of guidance or help or support on. Please feel free to drop me a line and I'll do my best to help you. Okay, so thank you so much for your time today. And if you have any issues, give me a shout. Okay.